yeah, guys, so I'm gonna make a quick video, also just to give a brief overview again, I guess, with just my voice. Um, we really do need to be very mindful who we're following on Telegram and all of the different various groups, and realize that some of these people that we hold in high honor are not necessarily worthy of those positions until you can get an explanation for what they've done. So when I was a little girl, I was targeted by the folks that are appearing to be light of the light from the darkness. So Illuminati members or people that grew up um, apart from us. I'm specifically speaking about the Kennedys that went into witness protection. Like they're saying that JFK went into witness protection and John F. Jr. is still alive, or maybe not anymore. So what I found out, and this is going to be really difficult for some people to comprehend, right? But they have a way of harnessing our energy when we're little children. And when I was 6 years old, September, August, I had an encounter where a beast was summoned to me, and it's really scared me. And that's how they harness our energy to use our spiritual gifts to manifest for themselves. And they sell them on the black market. I don't know exactly how it is done, but they have ways of doing it because they manipulate energy. So they harness my energy, and during that time of my life, I was nearly murdered, and we were nearly kidnapped. Right, and there was a huge lightning storm the one day that blew one of our trees to smithereens in the front yard. So that was interesting, and I have linked JFK Jr. to being in South Africa at that time. So I don't know if he was made my handler, or actually no, he's used my spiritual gifts to manifest for themselves. The only thing is they didn't have my permission, and obviously not, because I was a little girl. So it's almost like, oh, we'll just take from this child with the ultimate goal of her being the sacrificial lamb, and we'll just sacrifice her at the end so that we can usurp the throne of God. Is basically what this is in the grand scheme of things. Because this is Leo. Sit down, dude. Okay, so they sent the that beast to me when I was 6 years old, and in 1988, over Easter, I had to have an emergency appendectomy. And then on September 12th of that year, he was voted the sexiest man alive. But what that is it's actually an attack on my solar plexus. So they pull from your energy to manifest for themselves. So that would be my intuition and my natural abilities that God gave me, that these people come in and think that they can take and manifest for themselves. So, and that goes against spiritual law, which is kind of astounding, but it does, and you cannot take from a child of God to make for yourself. So generally, and so I did send in my DNA, and I am of the MacLeod Kennedy bloodline, which is the true bloodline, clearly, and these people are trying to hijack it because the Kennedys are not Kennedys. They freely, like the last year, they had a Telegram channel where they were claiming that they are Clooney's. So I guess they infiltrated the Kennedy line, that is of Merovingian descent and is the Mary Magdalene bloodline, from what I can gather. So I've sent everything in. I sent my DNA in, so we'll see when everything lines up, because I'm not standing up and claiming to be anything. I'm just wanting to understand who and what these people truly are. And they went into this program, when they went into witness protection, I guess that was called Gone with the Wind, right? So why is that? You thought you were going to sacrifice the child of God, or let me be the sacrificial lamb at the end of it, while you stand up and take all the grace and glory based on stealing somebody else's spiritual gifts? I have all these questions. It's kind of like, did they do that? Why would they do that? Why wouldn't they come to me? I've lived in the United States for 25 years. Why not come to me and let me be a part of your team instead of being against me? And that's what that appears to be. So everything that happened to me in my life was in and around Easter time: losses, accidents, surgeries, and this is how they harness it. Actually, I guess I had just had this epiphany. So yeah, when they go and have their rituals, they draw off of God, the chosen one's spiritual gifts. I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are many others, but probably a lot of people don't want to speak out about it. But it is a form of satanic ritual abuse, and it's not tolerated, and it cannot be tolerated. So from my understanding, AB negative blood is the Alpha Draconian bloodline. The Bushes also were AB negative, and Barbara Bush is apparently her father, or its father, because apparently Barbara Bush was a man. I don't know for certain. Was Aleister Crowley's daughter. So it's interesting how those souls, or that those spirits, keep incarnating into those blood types or bloodlines. So yeah, I mean, I'm standing here. This is, and last year I was led to believe in a group that one of them was JFK Jr. And I thought that we had a soul purpose, a connection, something that we should be doing together. And there's things called twin flames, which he is not. He's known as a vampire, in my books anyway, and to anybody else that can see these things from a higher perspective. So yeah, these are called energy vampires. And so I thought I'd supposed to have worked with him. And I mean, he has a wife. So I thought there was something like business related. But, then they, I guess, chose a different pathway. But here's the thing. You cannot take my spiritual gifts and use them against me, or or try to take from me what doesn't belong to you. Um, so things have been interesting because I've been listening to the angels. Religion tells us that tarot readers are evil, and they're absolutely not. They are spiritual advisors. They are tapped into source, spirit, God, whatever we want to call it. A lot of, it is. We are God's children. We are the starseeds. We are the ones waking up before the rest of you. And there are forces that be that are still trying to usurp the throne of God. And that is why there are light workers like myself that are here to expose them. So I do firmly believe that I was targeted by a coven of witches last year. Obviously, they're not going to admit to it, because then they would have to actually admit that they're not pure of heart. But anyway, I was targeted last year, and again, the angels confirm that, but with heavy witchcraft and manipulation. And there's one person in particular that really wants to be me, and studied me for a month. But you cannot take my destiny. It's my path. God put me on this earth for a reason. And again, it's to expose people of the dark. And I do believe the white hats are monitoring every one of us to see who is pure of heart and who will be honest and be able to put in places of leadership within the United States and probably around the world, because we don't want people that have to use magic and black magic and stuff to manipulate people. They even do this stuff on judges when they're going into court to win court cases. That's how disturbed I guess the folks are that know how to manipulate magic and stuff. So I know we'll know all the truth eventually. So yep, that was the one vampire that I've managed to isolate. So technically, it means that every single thing from when I had this monster encounter then would actually, everything that was manifested, every bit of money, every property, everything of value that was purchased actually technically belongs to me, because it was done using my life force, using my spiritual gifts. So the first attack against me was in 1977 when I had a tonsillectomy. And it was in August of that year. And there was a wow signal that reverberated through the heavens that lasted for 72 seconds. The day after that, Elvis Presley went into witness protection because he is the spearhead of the military operation. And I think he's like the safety net of Q. Q is a military intelligence operation that's made up of 800 military officials that were helping President Trump. So moving on about that, a couple of years ago, I watched a remote viewer that claimed that when President Trump went into Walter Reed, that he had actually and they claimed that he had COVID, but apparently he was being poisoned, and his daughter signed a DNR. She claimed that Ivanka signed a DNR. So obviously, in the grand scheme of things, because this is a huge military operation, if this was indeed the case, they wouldn't have been able to come out and say, "Hey, President Trump is dead," because it's so vital at this point to keep the Schumann resonance elevating. Because the higher that each one of us vibrates, and there's that torsion or tension in the hydrostatic firmament or the dome of that's over us, however that is. So it keeps the tension. So if you were to change that frequency, right, or drop the frequency, you actually weaken that hydrostatic tension or torsion in the firmament, which then can cause massive floods, apparently, because, I mean, there's water above, right? Or so we think. Who knows anymore? I don't even know. I don't really care what shape the earth is. I care about the children. Like, where are the children that these people claim to have saved from the trenches and the tunnels? Where are the children? What about our children? What about the children that are still going to bed hungry and struggling because they're trying to drag this thing out, I guess, for whatever purpose? Well, I do know, because they're still trying to usurp the throne of God, but they can't. So me waking up and shining a light on that thoughts, those plans. So moving on. So basically the Clooney's, in my opinion, are fake. Especially since they targeted me as a child and thought it was appropriate to harness my energy and use it for themselves. So, since not a one of them has come to me, they know more about us than we know about ourselves. So, not one of them has had the courtesy to come to me and tell me what they've done. But it will all be revealed in time. I really do firmly believe that, because you cannot go against a child of God that was sent here to serve humanity and to help people at this time. But again, I think I was sent here to expose the vampires. Jessie Zaboter is somebody that I watched with Chantal Marburg for a short while last year. So I think Jessie exposes like the bushes and all the stuff that she knows of in hand. And I think maybe I was an additional safety measure to expose the vampires. So the bushes are the ones that hurt the children and actually sacrifice them and drink their blood, I guess. And then there's obviously the vampires that steal our spiritual gifts and think that they can use it for themselves, and then sacrifice us and distribute our spiritual gifts for their family and friends. Only this time, I guess they weren't bargaining on walking into a brick wall, because I won't be the sacrificial lamb, and I'm not your sacrificial lamb, and I'm waking up. The other vampire, or what appears to be a vampire to me, is Diana Spencer. Um, these people fight for your vortices, and our gifts are established in each one of our chakra systems. And that's how they can harness energy and use those. So anyway, Diana in 1981 was when I guess she married Charles. And on September 10th, it's spring in South Africa, there was a massive snowstorm. It was one of the biggest snowstorms that ever happened, right? So I guess that's the Snow Queen, the one that doesn't have a heart. Anyway, I don't know. But then the heart thing comes in, that this woman was in South Africa when my father died. My dad was an ascended master. His numbers came to 33. I do believe that. So on his birthday in 1997 was on Good Friday. And then he died on April 4th. Again, it's all in and around Easter. So this is how they harness your power. That was the most devastating time for me, because my dad was my greatest love. I love my father. And that was a great blow to my heart, just like in 81 when my parents were getting divorced. So these people like siphon off your energy, and they want to take your spiritual gifts. So that's my heart chakra, okay? And my crown chakra, which these folks are going nuts about, listening to the angels, doing necromancy and hoodoo, voodoo. And like, again, I don't know exactly who they are, but it seems to be a large group of people. And again, it makes sense, because anything that the Spencers have created or acquired since sending that beast to me when I was 6 years old, which means it belongs to me. It's not a belonging to them. And for me, if it belongs to me, it belongs to all of us, because God created this world for all of his children, not to be taken away by others. So again, the AB negative blood, from my understanding, is if we look back to the beginning of this time, which is the Metatronic time matrix, right? Which is ashes to ashes and dust to dust. Well, that's what they believe in that religious construct. So we are unwinding time right now. The more the Schumann resonance increases, the more the vibrational frequency of each one of us increases. So we all elevating to a state of bliss, or a state of high vibrational frequency, which is love. Love is the law of vibrational energy. So we are unwinding time back to the beginning of this time, which would be just prior to the Luciferian invasion. So the Luciferian invasion was when God's experiment went bad, right? Was when these people, because from my understanding, Adam was married to Lilith. That was his first wife. Lilith refused to be subservient. She wanted equal give and take, which is how it should be. I mean, our husbands should be our protectors, and not the soy boys running around having inappropriate sexual relationships with other men. And I know there's the LGBTQRST, like however many letters they want to put behind all these genders. It's all part of a mind manipulation and construct. There are two genders, a male and a woman, a male and female. And I don't think it was ever intended to interbreed or whatever they do. Again, I'm not against it. If that's what floats your boat, that's all for you. But also realize that as you evolve and your soul evolves, that those things will change. And those are all genetic modifications that have been done to men. And how I can speak on that is gynecomastia is one of the signs, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, there was like a 50% increase in gynecomastia in little boys. And that's due to the estrogen in our water and then pushing soy in everything. That changes the hormonal structure. So our boys are growing breast tissue. That is the gynecomastia. And I checked it back in a couple of years ago, and they said that it actually increased to 75%. So that's what's causing people to have gay tendencies, I do believe. But again, it's each to his own, whatever floats your boat. It doesn't matter. I don't have anything against anyone. It's just, with the times changing, I think we'll all re-regulate back to the true intention. So anyway, the Queen of Hearts, that I said. So that's what it is. They're trying to stop our enlightenment, and they don't want us to wake up. So I guess that's why they're doing all of this. The only way I know that I have been targeted is because I do listen to the tarot readers, and they keep speaking about a Sagittarius temperance angel, which I do identify with, because I am of a higher vibration, I guess. And the time and place where I was born is really important for my mission. So, yeah, there's a lot of things. Okay, so the Walter Reed, going back to Walter Reed, where with the DNR about President Trump. So yes, they wouldn't have made it known because it would be too devastating to this huge galactic project that's currently happening. The other thing is, if President Trump was being poisoned and he knew that, maybe he went into witness protection. And I spoke to my friend James Rink a couple of weeks ago, and he also seems to think that he may be on Mars at this time. And it is interesting because then, President Trump always said, I'd like to lose everything to see who is really by my side. So I wonder if that's one of these things. And I do wonder if Donald knew my father and had some kind of agreement with him for them utilizing my spiritual gifts at this time. I don't know for sure. But I do know that I felt a close connection with President Trump, and I think he's done great things. And I'm not quite sure if maybe he was betrayed. Well, clearly he was betrayed. If somebody was trying to poison him, it would have to be somebody that was close by. So those are the things that are possibilities. What we see on the television is not the truth. So I mean, who knows? We don't really know if, I guess, Ivana, whatever, died or not, because they don't share anything of truth on the television. So I don't know. I know that this is a military operation, and at some point they're going to come in and do the full disclosure on the truth. There's not going to be another election because there's no government, guys. I mean, really, we want these corrupt people governing us, telling us what to do? No, they not. They not people of high honor or high standard. We don't need governments. We can learn how to take care of ourselves. And that should be the priority moving forward, is coming together in our communities and governing ourselves. We don't need kings and queens. And that's what they're wanting to do. They want kingdoms and queens. They want their 13 bloodlines to thrive. So it's like a battle within a battle in within a battle. It's like that movie Inception. You keep on like, oh, okay, I figured it out. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, well, no, that's not quite it. So there's a lot going on. Vampires are real, and as crazy as it sounds. But the thing is, you could have used my spiritual gifts all along, but with the increasing of light, there comes a payback. So these people, whoever have targeted the chosen ones, and I know there's lots of us, and we all chosen, and we all have a role to play. Some of us just have higher spiritual ranking, I guess. I don't know. This is all very new to me, so I'm just trying to figure it out with the remembrances I'm having from when I was a child. So, Bob Joyce is Elvis Presley, apparently, and he went into witness protection the day after they attacked me, or came after me for the first time. That was the wow signal, was the signal that they've come against somebody that they should not. And my name, again, in gematria comes to 144. Bob Joyce Elvis comes to 144. Presley Faith comes to 144. So there's a lot of it. And I did actually on 9/11 this year go to Benton, Arkansas, and I chatted with Bob Joyce, and it was really interesting. I did have a good time. Obviously, I told him about my encounters, and being like felt like I was being targeted last year and lured to Dallas, and I didn't. It was crazy. I went down to what was supposed to be the Rolling Stones concert, and the entire time I was like, something just doesn't feel right. I don't feel comfortable, so I followed my intuition and left and went down to San Antonio instead. I did have an encounter with some people, but I'm not going to elaborate on that right now. It's just an interesting space. So, I was going to say something else and lost my train of thought. So this happens sometimes too. We'll kind of get into a place where you're giving information, and if you're interrupted, you kind of break that chain of thought. And I guess that's a sage ability. I'm still, again, learning about all these things. So that is that. I don't mean to be a bearer of bad news, but I think we all need to stand back and really consider that these people that many idolize might not be of the light. And I don't think you are. When you take away someone else's spiritual abilities and then want to do them harm. So I guess I don't know. These people they had the opportunity to come and speak with me, and I guess they chose not to. And now I'm waking up and maybe they're freaking out. So technically the Spencer estate would belong to me. Since they targeted me. It's like, and I'm like, what's so special about me? That's the thing. I was lying the other day, lying on my bed, listening to the tarot reader. I'm like, what is this? What is so special about me that these people want me dead? And then it's my voice. It is my voice. And because they want total control of humanity, they want kingdoms and queendoms, and to say, hey, we rule the world, you're servants, you're peasants to us. We've saved the world, now we will delegate who gets what. The world doesn't work like that in my eyes. We're all God's children. We're all sovereign beings. We all have a destiny. We all have our own path. We don't need to be governed by anybody. So in all technicality, I think all the funds and everything that were made illegally against everyone, and we've been in this perpetual state of human slavery for way too long. There comes a point, it's like when we need to kind of wake up and take control of our lives and realize we don't need to idolize anybody. We don't need to be governed by anybody. And all of the funds that were ever made should be distributed to everybody because it belongs to everybody. And once money isn't the primary focus, people will be able to spend more time focusing on their families as it was intended to be. So a lot of it too is, like how do you even fight this? There's a court of the courts don't recognize black magic as a fault. So that's how they've hidden all their own atrocities in the system, because they can't be prosecuted for what they've done. But there's universal laws, and God does see everything. And if you come across one of His chosen ones and you think that you are worthy of their life and you can sacrifice them, you become the sacrifice. It's a simple, like, that's a simple understanding of it. So and also with all the adjustments. So getting back to the sorry, I'm really jumpy, but that's just how I am, and that's how we are. It just comes quickly and differently. So I forgot what I was going to say again. I can't stop. I just need to speak it without trying to explain when these things come down, when I get the highlights to share. So yeah, I guess that's what it is. And um, I guess that's what I am. We have the AB negative blood. Okay, so unwinding time to the beginning of this time matrix would be prior to the Luciferian invasion, which would be the serpent in the garden and beguiling Eve, or maybe Eve beguiled him. There's that. So Eve was a construct, I guess, that was made to harbor the offspring of the Alpha Draconians, which is the AB negative bloodline. And we all just bloodlines it and different genetic experiments. And this is where things went wrong, was creating, I guess, when the Alpha Draconians came in, they couldn't live on Earth because of the oxygen concentration. So they had to incarnate into human form. And, again, the bushes were really vicious and violent, from my understanding. And they were what known as the wolves. And then there's the vampires. So we have those ones that actually eat the flesh and blood of children, and then those that just steal their spiritual gifts. To me, there's really not a difference, because you still take away my free will and my ability to make choices for myself, and I never consented. So yeah, I guess my voice is an activator, and that's how we find our soul families and speak the truth about what's going on. So again, if I view at this from a higher perspective, it was like, okay, so who started this? JFK and whoever else. But the moment, I guess I'm the safety net. The moment they came after me was what triggered Alves, and he went into witness protection. So it's almost like there's a safety net in queue so that they cannot usurp the throne of God. So yeah, that's my take on that. And yeah, the Alpha Draconians in the Garden of Eden was the reptilians and the serpent, and then I guess there's Adam, and then the Canaanite bloodline is that AB negative bloodline, and Diana and John apparently fall into that line as well. And the only way I know this is I went to a secret soldier program in Illinois, and there was a lady that did a presentation, and she had linked herself to George Bush Sr. and Diana. So this is how we also learn, and we wake up in our journey, is when we have remembrance from being a child. We need to stop, because there's so many clues. Like my neighbors when I was little were Bob and Joyce, and that was my clue now to come through as an adult with Bob Joyce. And there's no such thing as a coincidence. So it's really interesting. My question is, if they know our spiritual gifts and they know more about us than we know about ourselves, that means there are other chosen ones that have also been targeted and are being used and manipulated in nefarious ways. To me, it's like, I do know that the Navy SEALs are high functioning superhumans that can do amazing things, and that there were several of them that also went into witness protection, trusting JFK Jr. and Diana. And with my experiences and linking them to being energy vampires, I truly am concerned about the Navy SEALs that went into witness protection, that these people had more knowledge of. And then, of course, they're their wives that are handlers. So if this dude is my handler, they both are, to manipulate me, then I have to view Elvis as my protector. And, a couple of other things I'd like to add is that Gladys Love Presley died when she was 46, which comes to a 10. Elvis Presley returned to the military 10 days later. Jim Morrison was born 30 years before me, also on December 8th. And that's actually Time Traveler's Day, for those that don't know. So Jim Morrison was born on December 8th, 30 years prior to my birth. And the day that he went into witness protection, both of those come to 10. So there's another 1010. So there's a double confirmation on a Mickey Mouse clock. And then Jim Morrison is actually Rush Limbaugh. And then I was led to believe that Rush Limbaugh didn't actually die. He went back into witness protection again for this time. Another celebrity that I do believe went into witness protection is John Lennon. Again, he went into witness protection 5 months on my birthday after the monster encounter. And then we know that John Lennon, well, not everybody knows this, but is Steve Jobs. And then Steve Jobs also went back into witness protection, I guess, to monitor these people. So there's safety measures in safety measures. So, and then we also have all these terrestrials that are from different places and spaces. And I think this is where we're waking up from our roots. So I resonate highly with Lyra and the Lumerians. And my prayer that I found out was a Lumerian prayer that I would say, unbeknownst to me, was: the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me, the presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is. So yeah, that's what it is. And I guess we will have this disclosure. My problem is like, so I'm going to have normal people that might come after me legally. And I don't have a way to prove any of this. And it would sound crazy to your everyday Joe on the street, but I don't lie, and it's the truth. So, and then the other thing is, you want me to go to a court of law and swear my truth on a book that's not the truth, or not the whole truth. And a lot of people don't understand this, that religion was created as a form of mind control. So whoever controls the mind controls the soul. And it was always something that was really difficult for me, because I'm like, well, what about a child that dies that doesn't read the Bible cover to cover? What about the person that doesn't believe that it's the whole truth, which was me? Because I just always felt that there was something wrong, and that's not the whole truth. And it absolutely is not the whole truth. There are more books to the Bible, and there was a Council of Nicia, and that was made up of Roman attorneys that decided what was going to go into the book and what was not. King James was not the true successor to the throne. Queen Anne just didn't have any children or husband to pass it on. So then they got old pedophile in there, who James was. I know people are not going to want to hear that, but that's how they infiltrate all these things. So these people decided what was going to be in the Bible and what they're going to use, what construct they were going to use to manipulate people's minds. So what? You got to go to a court of law that's corrupt as hell, and we all know that. And then you have to swear on a book that's not the truth. So they want you to tell the whole truth in a court of law, but yet it's based on a lie. I can't wrap my brain around that. So you kind of stuck up shit creek without a paddle, basically, because everybody idolizes these people, and I'm now calling them out and identifying them as energy vampires, which I do expect a lot of people to turn on me. Oh, Kim Clement was also an ascended master, and apparently he too went into witness protection to expose the corruption. And Kim Clement was born in the same town as I was in South Africa, which is Uitenhage. So a lot of interesting things. I mean, I was born 2.5 months premature, 48 years ago. I weighed 2 pounds and 1 ounce. God has a purpose for me because I have no mental deficits, although I think some people may beg to differ. But no, I'm perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with me. Obviously, at this time, I'll sound like I'm nuts to everybody else. But we have to be very careful who we follow, because a lot of people are false prophets. So my prayers do go out to everybody, because it's not easy what I share. But I know that it's my truth, and it is the truth. And targeting a little girl when she's 6 years old and using her life force to manifest is a form of Satanism from my perspective, because why else would you be doing it? To me, if these people have always known who I am, they could have always called me in 25 years ago when I moved to the United States and made me a part of their team. Instead, it appears, listening to the tarot readers, that I'm not a part of their team, and they are trying to do away with me, which they can't do because God has a higher purpose. I'm here to serve humanity at this time, and I have people posing to be light workers that are not light workers. I mean, there's one woman in particular that's trying to be me so badly, and I think that's like hysterical, because you can't be somebody you're not. So you want to you don't even know who you are, so you're pretending to be someone else because you want fame and fortune. So okay, I guess the fame and fortune will come in a way that's not foretold. But again, there are people doing death rituals and all kinds of crazy stuff out there. Nothing will befall me because I am a child of God, and no weapon formed against me will prosper. So a lot of people, because I'm clearly of a high spiritual standing with God or source, um, but by them doing witchcraft and stuff against me, it's backfiring. So now these dumbasses think that I'm cursing them. It's not. It's reciprocation for you coming against someone that is of a high vibrational frequency. So of course all that stuff goes back on you. That's why we need to always be kind and caring and compassionate, and realize that we cannot just say and do ugly things to people without knowing what God's purpose for them is on this earth. And no one has the right to try and hurt me or take my destiny from me. And it's just a crazy world, and I just want us to find happiness and peace and prosperity with one another without trying to do harm to one another. But I don't know how you get your spiritual gifts back from people that stole them and illegally bought them on the black market. I keep calling my energy back, but I guess I have to face this stinking beast that attacked me when I was 6 years old and stole the bejesus out of me. No pun intended. So it's like kind of crazy, because we all have a purpose. There's all these false prophets. It doesn't really matter. We all have Christ in us. We have the Christos, the oil of God, in us. It's fully functioning pineal glands. So eating right, being healthier, waking up and realizing that we need to look at things from a way higher perspective. And I guess those of us that vibrate at a higher frequency can view things from a higher perspective or put things down. That's why for me, when I look at things, I can look at it from the perception of where we currently are well, again, I'm sitting in my house isolated with my awakening, because it's like, when you keep praying, like, God, what is my purpose? What do you want me to do? And it's like, okay, I don't know. And now it's this. It's like, wait, what? You want me to go against people that the whole world cherish and idolize? And I guess that's it. I don't have any other explanation for the beast, and now identified who the siphons are that have sucked off my energy and created for themselves. And then, then there's the link to Diana apparently having Donald Trump's children. This is all stuff behind the scenes. So to me, it's like all lies. It's like, why did the Clooney's lie? Why didn't they just say they were Clooney's? Why did they have to infiltrate the Kennedy line? And why did they have to muck up and make a filthy name for the Kennedy line with the stuff that, these people was reportedly done? So I don't know. This is it. I'm not pointing fingers. It's like, okay, good riddance. Do what you got to do. Just leave me alone. Let me fulfill my purpose. And again, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And I do believe that. And I don't wish ill will on anybody. I just want the children to be safe. All of them. All over the world. Not just in America when they say America first. We need to do it for everybody in the whole world. Um, America First would be great to get the communities up and running, to get rid of the corruption that's still in the government. And yep. Um, but President Trump's last speech they did say that we will be back in some form. He didn't say he was going to be back as the president of the United States. And that form that I can think of is the Space Force, because that is what President Trump created and everybody laughed at him. But I do think it's time for full disclosure that we are not the only beings, that we have terrestrial families and lineages as well. And, there's so much. They portray that there's a lot of racism on the television, but I really do question that, because in our communities we don't see the racism that they show us on television. And anyway, we need to move past that, because we've all been black, we've all been Indian, we've all been Chinese, we've all lived many incarnations, we've all been everything. There's You've not always been white, you've not always been a woman. We've all gone through the trials and tribulations of all of the different cultures in the world. And now I think we're going to have to learn to accept other terrestrial beings as well, which is really exciting because it opens up a whole new world for us. So things are good. And, that wow signal that was let loose, I do think is a force coming down. And that is the truth. And that's possibly why they say nothing can stop what's coming. Because the day they touched me, they messed with the wrong child of God, I feel. And again, I'm not like, woohoo, look at me. I'm not doing that at all. It's just basically based on my experiences as a child, and then my where I was born, and like the energy and frequency and vibration. I guess my voice has something to do with this as well, but that's how we recognize each other. So if what I share doesn't resonate with you, don't ridicule me. Just move on. And if it does, then awesome. Maybe we can help each other. I am considering like reaching out to Linwood, um, and sharing my story, because I mean he knows about them eating the children and the child sacrifice and that. And part of me wonders if he has an insight into this as well, and maybe he will have my back. The other beauty of this is I need to get this to Mel Gibson, because I think we can make a movie of my life and it will be a bestseller. Anyway, you guys have a bright and beautiful day and all things of greatness. And I don't want to say bless you, because I never ever want you to be less. And if no one's told you today, remember that I love you.